So now we are gonna continue exploring the issues of engagement. We are going to have three presentations around three projects. There is the conflict textile project presented by Gillian now, followed by MEMEX and Digi-Mapping. And after these three presentations, we will have some time for Q&A. This pattern will be repeated for throughout the day for the presentation. So every three we'll have time for questions, and you can ask the questions via the chat like you have done so far. But don't forget to address the person you'd like to ask your question to. So Gillian, when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Just to say, it's a real pleasure for Conflict Textiles to be part of this event today. And I am really just a helper on the Conflict Textiles collection. So I'm delighted that the curator, Roberta Batchik, assistant curator, Breach Doherty, and our colleague on a particular example we're going to use, Esther Elaine from Roe Valley Arts and Cultural Heritage, are with me, and they can perhaps help answer some of the questions or queries that you may have later on. So what is Conflict Textiles? Well, it's a very unique cultural heritage collection. It was founded in 2008, and at one level, it's a physical collection of international textiles focused on elements of conflict and human rights abuses. So there's over 370 textiles in the collection, and I'll tell you a bit more about the textiles in just a minute. As well as the physical collection, we have an online archive or repository which details in quite considerable detail all of the textiles and all of the events that we have been associated with. This archive is an example of, I think, cooperation between universities and communities, in that the archive is an associated site on CAIN, which is the conflict archive on the internet based at Ulster University. And without that platform, it would have been very difficult for us to grow the online dimension of our work. So as well as the physical collection and the archive, there are, of course, associated events. And these are a wide range of things. Exhibitions, as you would expect, and exhibitions in local community halls, exhibitions at the Ulster Museum, exhibitions or pieces exhibited at the V&A, a wide range of venues. And of course, in the COVID world, we now have our online venues as well. Guided tours, we have made films, and we have been very involved in participatory activities. And that's what drew us to this particular event today, because as a very small collection with a very small team, we're very keen to learn more about what's been going on and what we might be able to do given our limited resources. So as well as the collection and the repository and all our events, at the heart of Conflict Textiles is a desire and the fact that we are part of an international network of individuals, groups, organizations and projects that use and promote and really value these textiles, and we're involved in research into what we call the textile language of conflicts. So the textiles then really originated with what are called Chilean arpailleras. Some of you may be familiar with these Latin American textiles, three-dimensional textiles, which were perhaps a response to the dictatorship, telling stories of oppression, telling stories of loss, telling stories of difficulty. So starting with these Chilean arpailleras, the collection has grown to include textiles from over 40 different countries now. We live in Ireland, Northern Ireland, so we now have Northern Irish textiles and textiles from Africa, textiles from other parts of Latin America, Canada, and so on. The interesting thing about the collection is that it contains pieces that have been made by professional textile artists. And obviously these are very powerful. There are also a lot of pieces that have been made by complete novices, perhaps people who have only once felt the need or the desire to create some such textile to tell about an event or something that has happened to them. But for us, the collection is the combination of the whole. All of the pieces have a story to tell, and all are equally valued within the collection. We don't have time in this short presentation to go to the website, but you can see a small part of one of the Chilean arpilleras here on the right, School in a Publishing. And basically, these are, if you like, a classic example of a Chilean arpillera with the mountains in the background and the sun. You can see the little people. These are little arpillera dolls, and people going about their work, tilling the land, doing the washing. And in the left-hand corner, there's a little school. And this simple arpillera in some ways really tells the story about how communities value education and the need for education, and how education is a link to a future for their children and their families, even living in these difficult times as they were under the dictatorship. So we have three main program areas, if you like. So the first one is about the disappeared. And obviously in many conflicts around the world, different individuals or groups have been disappeared under the regimes. For the families and communities involved, such disappearances are obviously very, very difficult. And for the families who spend years and years in the search for their loved ones, in the search for knowledge about what happened to their loved ones, and in the search to get justice for their loved ones. This is a very important area of our work, and a lot of our exhibitions and activities have been around that. Then we have the broad area of human rights, and under this comes your particular focus in the CultureLabs around refugees and migration, and we have been involved in this over the years. In Northern Ireland, we have had a lot of work looking at community relations, which is of course about the relations between the two main communities here, and then growing into good relations, looking at the relations between all. And in fact, in this year, we are going to be working with an organisation called Platforma, which some of you may be familiar with, part of Centrepoint, who are doing a huge program of work this year looking at refugees, and we will be part of that program. The final main program area is the Holocaust, and just last month we ran an online event with the Lindenhall Library in Belfast called Light Through the Darkness, Remembering the Holocaust. So we have over the years been involved in work around that, and many of the textiles refer to issues to do with the Holocaust. So that's the background to our work and what we're all about. In terms of the social impact of our work.
Can we move towards the end, please, Gillian, because we are running out of time?
Oh, okay, right. Time goes so quickly. Okay, so the social impact is there in terms of the groups that we work with. And what I wanted to talk about particularly was a project called an exhibition called Embracing Human Rights, Conflict Textiles Journeys, which we're scheduled to have with the Roe Valley Arts and Cultural Centre last March. We had the opening event, and within days the centre was closed down because of COVID. We then, as far as we know, working with Esther, set up the first online exhibition in Northern Ireland. We had an online guided tour. We got patterns made and virtually encouraged people to be able to make arpillera dolls. That led to an online arpillera doll exhibition. And then a cross-community group in Derry decided to take that further, and they set up their own arpillera dolls project, which led to another exhibition. So in all those ways, we have been participating across the community and so on. The questions and the challenges for us are significant. Firstly, our Twitter was only opened on the 6th of March last year. So we're new to that. And to talk about social media managers, we don't have those sorts of facilities. So how do small collections like ours upskill in new methodologies and digital tools? For our work on these very sensitive human rights issues, relationship building and trust is at the heart of the collaborations that enable us to work with other organizations. That takes time. How do we get more time? As Jenny said, we need to evaluate the digital interactions in different settings and we need to share the learning, and that's already been said in the presentations. And for us, the whole issue of digital inequality and digital inequality in terms of where our users are. So people, for example, in Colombia may not be able to access some of the online work that we do in the same way as people living in this part of the world. So just to conclude then, these are the links to our site, and I can paste these into the chat when we finish. We have the main website, the Embracing Human Rights, and a couple of other things that you may be particularly interested in. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gillian. Sorry to rush you up, but if you want to have another 11 presenters, we have to do that, as much as painful as it is, because it was incredibly interesting.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
So, Vanessa, now you have the burden to make it up. And I'm joking, so when you're ready.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
So I cannot share the screen while you're sharing it. Okay.
Gillian has to stop first, yeah. Okay, we can say it. Thanks.
Good. So, hi everyone, I'm Vanessa from the Interactive Technology Institute in Madeira Island and Lisbon, working in the MEMEX project. The MEMEX is a 3-year project funded under the H2020 program. The project caters 11 partners from tech, digital and cultural sectors, and is coordinated by the Italian Institute of Technology. And here in the audience, we have a lot of MEMEX members that then are happy to answer some questions. The MEMEX promotes social cohesion and cultural diversity between communities at risk of exclusion, and at the same time facilitate encounters, discussions and interactions between these communities. Achieving social cohesion involves reducing disparities, enabling people to have a sense that they are members of the same group or community and face shared challenges. Our goal here are twofold, a social one and a tech one. So we aim to design guidelines to promote actions for social inclusions with strategies for audience engagement and development, and at the same time develop an advanced but easy to use tool on smartphones for non-expert users to create their own stories and engage with localized storytelling with augmented reality. I would like to first put the attention to the most important aspect of this project, the people that MEMEX will try to help. Socially fragile targets that are systematically blocked from various cultural opportunities and resources. The inclusion of these communities are enabled by storytelling and artificial intelligence of the MEMEX app. One of the added value of the MEMEX project is that the app will be designed in close relation with the target people in order to ensure that the app will take into account the digital divides and the needs of the target audience. In this perspective, the cooperation between tech and cultural partners is very important, and is this the condition for an inclusive app. Our contribution to this symposium is that the storytelling approach is in the center of the project. There is a mix of digital cultural heritage, data collections from GLAMs, and new created stories from the participants. With the final app, users will be able to create their own story and share it with the MEMEX community. The app will also be used by intermediary social and cultural organizations for the mediation activities, and in particular by galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. The app is a looking glass to see people's stories in the real world, and it unveils stories and memories of the target communities. In a given location, we will have stories from different people coupled with information from cultural heritage databases. In some, the artificial intelligence of the MEMEX app will work on a knowledge graph that will group individual stories with content from databases. Localization, computer vision enabled automatic localization of users and objects that, with the knowledge graph, will give us more information about objects like a monument or a building. And also storytelling through augmented reality, assisted story creation and visualization using advanced augmented reality technologies. From now on, this is the process that we are following. First, we needed to come up with user requirements for the app to be developed. And for this, the tech partners led a field study and state-of-the-art research. Then these were subject of discussion between tech and social partners. And now in this moment, while the tech partners are developing the app, the social partners are conducting storytelling workshops with inhabitants to engage them in the MMX activities. When this is done, we are going to conduct app usability tests, not only with inhabitants, but also with stakeholders. And finally, there will be the stage for improvements and conducting co-design workshops with inhabitants and stakeholders to gather feedback as much as possible for consequent improvements. And the open questions that we propose for this symposium are three. How will cultural heritage enable us to convey the memories and experiences of groups at risk of exclusion? Is it possible to establish an encounter between technology and reflections on heritage made by groups at risk of exclusion? Will the capacity building activities be adequate to respond and accompany the needs of the projects? And finally, will cultural and digital heritage through technology and its interactions with communities enable cultural policies to be designed and social inclusion strategy to be addressed? And I will pause here, 5 minutes on time. So if you would like to know more about these projects or even participate in it, please drop us a line. Thank you. Wow,
thank you, Vanessa, for your talk and for being exactly on time. I really appreciate that. If we can now move forward. So any questions to Vanessa and Gillian so far, please ask them in the chat. And if you can move forward for the last presentation for this slot by Tanis Grandson. Here we go. Very quick turnaround, I like that.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. So hello everyone, my name is Tanis Grandison. I'm a PhD student in School of Computing at Edinburgh Napier University. I'm here today to present a participatory creative placemaking project called Digimapping. The project sought to create large tactile talking maps of meaningful places to children in their local area. Oh, hang on. Since its definition in 2010, creative placemaking generally falls in two categories: area development, such as infrastructure and buildings for the creative industry, and secondly, activity orientated, where this research sits. This includes community arts projects, community events such as festivals, and community planning using the arts. Creative placemaking mirrors many approaches from critical heritage, specifically community heritage projects. When we look at community heritage, it's not just about objects, people, and places, but about relationships between them and ourselves and the impact they have on places now and in the future. One approach to this is through individual and collective memory. As memory cannot be replicated exactly, one method of sharing memory is through storytelling and digital media tools. The research took place in Wester Hailes, an area of Edinburgh in the UK. Now, Wester Hailes is deemed to be in the top 10% of multiple deprivation in Scotland, and often its reputation is closely linked with films such as Trainspotting. The research was a co-produced partnership with the creative placemaker at Whale Arts. Whale has been established in the local community for the last 25 years. They were keen to use technology with children to explore the local community. The Digimapping project took place in each of the 3 primary schools in Wester Hailes, with 4 classes totaling 101 participants aged between 8 and 11. The Digimapping project consisted of 6 two-hour sessions in class time. During the sessions, participants drew their walk to school, shared their top meaningful places in the area. Then they went on a psychogeography walk with audio recorders to these meaningful places to record stories, feelings, and sounds. They were then introduced to bare conductive touchboards. These are microcontrollers with capacitive touch sensors. Participants learned how to make interactive drawings, so when you press one of their drawings, it spoke their recordings from the walk. The main findings from the project showed that participants appropriate technology to creatively experiment with how it works. This was seen when participants tested objects for interactivity and made magic wands to trigger sounds. Participants also share knowledge about the local area through a variety of means, such as interviews, narration, and performative storytelling. One example was the different views and methods of recording content about a haunted wood where Bloody Mary lives. Another group made an audio quiz of sounds in the local area and asked the imagined listener to guess what it was, with the answer being revealed in the next recording. Lastly, participants appropriated their own cultural knowledge as a means to create and share knowledge about their local area. This included discussing things in their local area, like they were making content for YouTube, including asking for likes and including ad breaks. Lastly, they also took on characters such as Steve Irwin, claiming an area had tarantulas and snakes. From the research findings, a guiding 4Ps framework has been proposed for approaching creative placemaking using digital media tools. It's also something to feed in today's discussion. As digital media tools become cheaper and easier to use, they can be appealing for use within creative placemaking projects. So how can we better support those in practice who are not tech experts that want to use technology, but to ensure that the digital tools used afford participants meaningful expression that will also marry with the goals of creative placemaking projects? These 4Ps are as follows. Participatory, and this is the most important P as it feeds into all the others. Participation, not just with a facilitator, but with each other. Participation allows people to individually and collaboratively express meaning. Polyvocality, by giving participants the freedom to critically engage with each other and document these experiences in a way that's meaningful to them. When participants work together, they can hear knowledge of others and even collaborate to unpack knowledge and digitally construct it about a local area. Performative, when using digital media tools, practitioners need to ensure that there is space within the process of tasks to allow participants to perform with the technology to express knowledge. The digital media tools that are used within projects needs to be something that affords participants a chance for play and experimentation. And lastly, playful. This is closely aligned with performative. Playful is defined as within the sessions affording the participants the ability to experiment with the digital tools, to test the different ways of using them and to appropriate the technology as a way for them to explore its functionality. Thank you very much, and I look forward to any questions you may have.